one fundamental truth here, that this conflict is seen by Russia as an existential conflict, that there is no tie, there is no defeat, there is only victory. And they have put together a plan to achieve that victory. And they're on the cusp of that happening right now. As we speak, the Ukrainian army is disintegrating at the front. This is sending waves of panic through NATO, et cetera. And this is why you see Emmanuel Macron talking about the need to send French troops if the Ukrainian line collapses. Well, it's collapsing right now. David Cameron making similar statements. Russia has a plan. They have mobilized the troops. They have trained the troops. They have the conventional military to achieve this objective. As I was told by a general earlier this year, major changes on the map in May and probably game over by the end of the summer. And that's the trajectory they're on. The problem is you have the West saying insane things, such as if the Ukrainian line collapses, NATO troops will intervene. This is why Vladimir Putin now has ordered the Southern Military District. People, please just open your eyes and your ears and listen to what I'm saying. The Southern Military District to carry out training for the employment of tactical nuclear weapons. This doesn't mean that they're going to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. They're not. They're going to blow the hell out of NATO forces in Romania, Poland, Germany, France, Italy. It's nuclear war. If this is what you want, West, you're going to get it. Putin doesn't bluff. This ain't a game. This isn't joke. This is life and death for Russia. They've made that clear from the very beginning. And so now we have a situation where NATO tried to call us bluff. The United States poured hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weaponry and money and such into the Ukrainian military. Russia had a plan. They ground it out. All this nonsense you hear in the West, Russia's suffering 1,000 dead. The number of Russian losses right now on the battlefield are the lowest they've been since the war started. That's how unbalanced this is right now. Russia is dominating the front line. They are devastating the Ukrainians. It was 800 Ukrainian dead a week ago. It was 1,000 earlier. It's up to 1,500 a dead. They're just being slaughtered. They're being annihilated, and there's nothing to replace them. So they are literally collapsing. NATO's in a panic. Macron's talking about sending troops. Poland's talking about sending troops. And Russia's saying, I don't know how many times we have to tell you, if NATO troops show up on Ukrainian soil, we're going to nuke you. We're going to nuke you. Okay, we're going to take you out, not your troops in Ukraine. We're going to nuke the decision-making centers. Russia isn't bluffing. I hope the people watching right now are getting cold sweats right now, because the world's over at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it's over. It's game, set, match. It's done. Whatever plans you had for the summer, they're canceled. Whatever Christmas plans you had, forget about it. So get scared, start calling people and saying, what the hell are you doing, Tony Blinken? Biden, get on the phone to Macron and tell him to shut up and sit down. The same thing with the Poles, because this is it. Russia's getting ready to exercise the use of tactical nuclear weapons in the Southern Military District. Okay, that means that if NATO troops are deployed, because the Ukrainian army is collapsing as we speak, and Macron has said it's his red line. And if they collapse, I have no choice, he says, but to send French troops in. Well, the Russians will kill them, but then they're going to nuke France. So there we are. This is about as serious as it gets, and yet we are sleepwalking. We are sound asleep. Nobody in America cares. Nobody.
Do they understand what you've said, but they choose to ignore it for political reasons? When I say they, I mean the West Wing, the White House, the American State Department.
No, because they're not suicidal. I've seen them scared before. I've seen them early on when Putin said, hey, I just want to let you know from the start, this is our thing, we're doing it. And if you put NATO boots on the ground, we nuke you. And at the start, everybody's like, oh, you can't say that. You can't talk about nuclear weapons. And they were scared. And then they said, well, we don't see any evidence of this, and we think he's bluffing. And then when he reminded them again, you guys come in there, we nuke you. He's bluffing. Right now, they think he's bluffing.
Let me ask some technical questions. If Ukraine is foolish enough to send an F-35 equipped with a nuclear weapon into the sky and it is shot down, does that engage the nuclear aspect of it?
If Ukraine possesses a nuclear weapon, that engages the nuclear aspect of it. The moment Russia finds out Ukraine has received a nuclear weapon, Russia will react accordingly. Ukraine cannot have nuclear weapons. Now, here's an interesting thing. Russia has put the West on notice that they will treat the F-16s as nuclear weapons carriers.
All right, so that's the point of my question. Yeah. If they truly are nuclear weapons carriers and Russia uses a low-yield nuclear weapon to take it down, does that set off the nuclear paraphernalia, for lack of a better word, in the atmosphere?
First of all, Russia's not using a nuclear weapon to take it down. Russia's going to drop a nuclear weapon on Romanian bases, Polish bases, German bases, and then they're going to go ahead and take out decision-making centers. So they'll engage Europe with about 50 nuclear weapons. Then the question is, what is the United States going to do? Commit suicide? Because that's just low-level stuff Russia's using. All their big stuff still sitting there on full alert, So the moment the United States goes to alert, sends signals out to the subs, the Russians will say, okay, screw it. Goodbye. Do svidaniya. You're all dead. Everybody dies. We go to heaven as martyrs because we didn't start this. We warned you. Do not use F-16s. Those F-16s come from nations that are part of the NATO nuclear sharing program. And because they are part of the nuclear weapons sharing program, we have to assume that they still retain that role when they enter Ukraine. And the West is going, but no. Russia doesn't care. Russia
so
says,
does Ukraine have American F-16s as we speak?
They are training on, not American F-16s, American-made F-16s, but they're training on F-16s provided by NATO countries as we speak. These weapons have not arrived in Ukraine yet, but they're expected to do so sometime this summer. So this is why Russia's trying to give us all the heads up possible. They'll treat it as a nuclear weapons carrier. If NATO troops land, if they get involved, they're going to, Russia's ready to go to nuclear war. This is not a game for Russia. This is literal existential survival. People should listen to Vladimir Putin tomorrow. He's being inaugurated. One of the biggest events in modern geopolitical history, and the West, again, is ignoring it. Listen to his speech. It's going to be very deliberate. His words are going to be carefully chosen.
If President Macron sends a few thousand troops to Ukraine, regular French troops, not the Foreign Legion, does Putin attack Paris?
Well, no, what will happen is that Putin will kill all the French troops, and then he'll probably strike the French logistics centers in Romania. Now, at that point in time, France has said that, the stupidity of the French is unmeasurable. You have a French general who says, but we have 200 nuclear weapons. Russia would never bomb our troops in Romania. Well, that's my worst French accent in the world. But the point is, it doesn't matter, man. Russia's got thousands of them, and they will take you off the map. And that's what France needs to understand, that you will be taken off the map. You will no longer exist, whether you have 200 nukes or not. The French need to start shutting up. And this is where America's got to be a leader and call Macron and say, just shut up. I don't want to hear another word out of you.
Is it true that President Macron sent 1,500 French Foreign Legion, not regular French soldiers, French Foreign Legion, which as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, consists of many foreigners, not just French people, but the command and control is French, sent this group to Ukraine. Is that true?
I don't believe so, because we need to be careful. The French Foreign Legion is still the French army. The men that are in there are French soldiers. They wear the French flag. They follow the orders of French. They're not independent actors. They are a force that is used overseas a lot. They used them in Africa extensively, but they're still part of the French army. And as such, if they deploy to Ukraine, they will be French army. They'll be treated by the Russians as French army, and they'll be killed.
Ray McGovern reports that 7 of them were killed in the past weekend. Do you have any ability to confirm or alter that?
I've heard that 7 Frenchmen were killed. There may be an arrangement where foreigners in the French Foreign Legion can leave the French Foreign Legion and join the International Legion in Ukraine to make a direct transfer. The French might have come up with an arrangement like that, but that still has the soldiers on the ground wearing a Ukrainian flag, not a French flag. But yeah, no, I heard that the 7 of them got killed. I heard that there's a number of them that are out there, a couple hundred that are on the front lines plugging. This is Macron's interim measure. So basically, he went to the French Foreign Legion and said, if you are foreigners and you're under a French contract, we are willing to, and I don't know the total deal, but I would imagine that you get sheep dipped, you go over, you fight for the Ukrainians, but the clock's still ticking for your French pension. And then when that's done, if you live, you come back, they reconvert you, you get credit for your time served, and your contract's maintained intact. Because otherwise, if I were a French Foreign Legionnaire, I wouldn't do it. Be like, wait a minute, I got a good deal here in France. I'm not going there without protection. It's the same thing when in Vietnam, back in the old Laos days, when they used to take Air Force officers and have them go off and fly, forward air controlling for the CIA in Laos. They sheep dipped them. They weren't Air Force officers anymore. They were CIA officers. But as soon as that tour ended, they went back to the Air Force, and the Air Force went, okay, you're back. You get credit for your time served. Your promotion didn't get cooked up. You had a good fitness report, and your career is made. I've known a number of Ravens, they called them, that had that happen to them because they wouldn't have signed up for the CIA and throw away an Air Force career. So the deal had to be made. I'm sure the French did that to send these guys in, but These aren't French Foreign Legionnaires.
This scenario that you described, whereby Putin might use nuclear weapons, is this understood by General Brown, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and by Secretary Austin, the Secretary of Defense?
Yes, but the question now is in the Defense Intelligence Agency, are they saying that Putin's bluffing? This is the key question of intent. This is where the failure of the United States to engage with the Russians. There was a time when we had, we met with the Russian defense attaché. We met with the assistant defense attachés, both in Moscow, here in the United States. We had conversations. And this is the purpose of the defense attaché, to call up his counterpart and say, guys, this ain't a bluff. Okay, I know you got your politics, but this isn't a bluff. This is as serious as it gets. And it also allows American officers to sit down and go, hey, what's going on? What's your intentions? How can we nip this thing in the bud? We don't have any of that dialogue now. There's been no connectivity between our military officers and Russian military officers. There's absolute steel barrier there. And with that, now when you can't talk to the Russians, you don't know what they're thinking, so you start to speculate. And the longer you go, the more ridiculous your speculation gets. So right now, the guys that the State Department should be turning to, the foreign area officers who are supposed to be the experts, they say, what are the Russians thinking? They go, we don't know, because we're not allowed to talk to them. We haven't been allowed to talk to them for over 2 years now. So they don't know.
So does Bill Burns, the head of the CIA, understand what you just said?
100% he knows they're not bluffing. He is right now screaming to the White House, this isn't a joke. This is red alert kind of stuff. But here's the problem. Blinken and Sullivan said, well, we can't back down, because then the Russians will think that they've achieved some sort of nuclear deterrent supremacy over us. We have to stand tall. If we back down, then the NATO nuclear sharing program is no longer viable. We can't back down. This is about pride. This is about America standing tall. And they'll say this nonsense, and Biden will sit there with his senility and go, oh, yes, we must do this. And next thing you know, we're going to be standing tall. The French are going to go, well, America's standing tall. Hell, let's do this. And boom, we're all dead. We need leadership right now, and we don't have it.
How many troops do we have on the ground in Ukraine, out of uniform or in?
Not that many. I mean, I've heard other people talk about, some ridiculous numbers, to be honest. Let me just say that one number I heard was 15,000. That's a division. That's 750 tons of sustainment a day. I don't know if anybody knows how many trucks loads that is. That's a footprint that is detectable and interdicted. I think that we're dealing with hundreds at the most, maybe 100, 150. That's it. We don't have that many on the ground. We can't afford to have that many on the ground because it's a huge risk. They are detectable and they'll be killed. Now, there's some talk about if we send in these Patriots because Ukraine doesn't have the crews for them anymore. Remember, when you destroy a Patriot battery, you kill the crew. I'm sorry, guys, I don't mean to smile about this, but how stupid can people get?
Isn't the crew of the Patriot battery consist of Americans?
They used to consist of Ukrainians that were trained. They're all dead. So now, when we come in, we're going to see American contractors, not necessarily serving soldiers, but when we start turning over this equipment, it'll be used to protect the airfields where the F-16s are coming in, which will be maintained by American contractors. And so you're going to have a lot of Americans on the ground in a airfield, and the Russians are just going to kill them all.